So I'm all good. I'm all good to go.
Yeah, I'm chilling. Get some other people up here. Let's start talking gotchi.
Yeah, let's get No Future. You want to come up here? I thought I was having some trouble connecting to the space at the start because I don't know, like randomly kicked me out. So I'm glad I made it back in. But
Yeah.
yeah, if the space gets rugged by by any chance, like this has happened like once or twice before, I'll just like restart another space and I'll just retweet it out. So just so you guys know, like if it randomly just
Sounds
ends,
good.
I'll just restart it and re-invite everybody.
Sounds good.
Yo,
Let's get Master Yin, Master Yang.
What's up, gentlemen?
How you doing?
Good, man. You know, giving my fingers a rest. Going ham in those Dow chats, man. It ain't easy.
Yeah. Let's keyboard warrior.
Dude, I'm not really the
AGIP?
type, man, but you know, it's a pretty interesting topic, and it affects a lot of people, and you know, I think there's a little bit of like, oh, hey, it's been decided, no one cares. It's kind of like sweep it under the rug, and you know, that kind of bothered me a little bit. So I just wanted to make sure that you know there was enough of an opportunity for people to kind of hear both sides, which you know I've stated several times. I'm cool either way, but you know, it's kind of obvious that, and I think we all talked about it in here too, that the boosts were a little weird in their presentation, in kind of the specifics that were said about how they were going to work. And even between like auction 1 and 2, like I felt that maybe there was some new information tabled. Maybe it was there before auction 1 in regards to like that they would never ever be like replenished. But I think that, you know, beyond the whales, there's a lot of people in the community, especially the new people that came onto the game, and you know, gosh, everybody was here so excited to have all these new people come and participate in the auction, and then you know, not everybody had the time to go dive in the docks and be in the inner circle and this and that. You know, hey, they don't deserve what people are calling a bailout per se, but I think that there's something to be said when like, hey, they perceived value for a reason. It wasn't, you know, by mistake. And even perhaps probably some of them were like, well, maybe the boosts look weird now, but they'll change something in the future, because I don't feel like they're well explained explicitly, regardless of what everybody in the chat wants to say, you know, and that's coming from someone that's done the deep dive on the game.
right,
Yeah,
right.
There's a little bit of a UI UX issue with like the perceived value of boost relation to like what they'll actually do in the realm.
Yeah, I'm a big
First,
you know, I'll take it on the
first of
if I
all,
made a bad choice, you know, that's okay.
yeah. I mean, first of all, I just want to say, yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about all the AGIP stuff. I want to get like deep into it. We got the 8 new proposals. Like some of them are very contested, so we're going to be getting into that tonight. And I'm actually looking forward to some of the things that we're going to be sharing, especially some of the stuff you just brought up, Master Yin. So first of all, like I want to welcome everyone here. For anybody that's new, like I have a couple faces in here I don't think I've seen before. Yeah, we're talking about the Aavegtochi proposals right now, and there's 8 of them, and they all apply to like some of the new gameplay that's going to be coming out once the Gotchiverse launches. So yeah, anybody that wants to catch up on that, they can hop in the Discord and look at some of the discussions. But yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about the AGIP proposals, and I think AGIP stands for Aavegtochi Improvement Proposals. So yeah, like go ahead, Master Yin. You were talking about which was the specific proposal. I'm actually just
Well,
looking
so
at
first, I mean, I was surprised to even see those SIG props. Like, I had accepted the fate of Boost. They didn't make sense. I was like, whatever. I don't know. Like, something happened here. But, hey, this is a game, and, you know, we all take the risk. And, you know, even in MMORPGs, sometimes things happen in the game that are out of people's control, and it changes the whole economy. And there's always people that kind of, like, are on both sides of that. So that's not, like, a first-time thing for me, like, kind of seeing things like that. But, you know, it is kind of, you know, surprising kind of like how the community has reacted to it, because it's the first one. I mean, I wasn't here for the Haunt 1. Kind of, I guess there was like some history. Maybe you guys can catch me up on like a prop for Haunt 1 that was like something changing the way that like it worked, or the way Haunt 1 ghosts work. But whatever. The point is that, you know, these extremely kind of like complex proposals that affect people in the game differently, I think those will be controversial because you have like, people that came onto the game and they perceive the boost value. And then you have all these other people that are like, oh, no. We know the meta. Like the meta was like, you're dumb if you bought a boost, like so dumb. You know what I mean? Like, why would you spend your money on that? Right. So it's kind of hard for me to really get the real vibe of the community too, because like on Discord is the hardcore people and the people that really do get the meta and are involved. And perhaps like some of the voices that maybe like were confused won't come out there, right? Because they're not those hardcore types of players. They're more the casual player that maybe saw like the second auction, felt like they missed the first, were so excited. And, hey, like this thing with like, hey, there's only a certain amount of these on the map. Like this must be rare. Like if I'm perceiving land value, I should try to buy one. And so I just think there was a little bit of astroturfing going on, a little DDoSing in the chat. And I think it's important to just kind of think about every player. And I feel like the whole boost thing got made out to be like, oh, this is a bailout for the rich. Like this is a bailout for the people that are dumb and aped and like didn't read the docs. And like that attitude is kind of like defeating for the game because it's like, all right, well, at least at this point in the game, even though we're in co-opetition, like it's more cooperation because the game rules aren't set yet, right? Like everybody, even in this whole parcel buying, people were looking for the alpha. What's the secret? Like there is unknowns. We don't know how the emission rate's going to work. We don't know how long it's going to take, to get your Alchemica out of the game. Everybody's taking risks. Many people probably even bought boosts knowing that like they didn't make sense on paper, but like, hey, maybe the game designers like see something and they'll change it because well, why have boosts if they're not going to be anything special? If they're only going to give you 5% or 10% of the supply one time ever, right? And so I have a couple of things that I would love to figure out. One, what was the original intention design behind the boost, right? Because I think that matters. I think that's kind of lost. I am curious to know what like Jesse and Coder Dan really envision long-term for the boost. From the blog post, I gather that they meant for it to be something special. And then two, I want to kind of learn from this and see like how as a community we can communicate like value better and not necessarily have this attitude where it's like, oh, well, people are not as informed as the inner core, so like they deserve to be punished because all the people in the inner core took the other side of the bet, which was like boosts suck according to the data that's been given, even though that data was not solid, right? Because it kind of has never been solid. Things have been changing, whether they replenish, whether they don't, all that stuff. So, people took the other side of that trade. Like a lot of people are really happy that they didn't buy boost parcels. And now they just, are probably a little bit pissed off that their trade might not go as well as they wanted it to because there might be more value than boost than was perceived or communicated.
I just want to chime in real quick. And I would say, at least from my perspective, I don't think it's necessarily like about people like to a degree. It's, I think it would be different if people were upset. Some people who bought boosted parcels, if the starting price was at 45K Ghost and they feel like they didn't get the value that they deserved and when they bought a product priced at that price. The issue is that these people in a bid to earn auction overbid. That was their mistake. And no one came to save them by outbidding them. Now, did they do their research? Did they FOMO? Who knows? But it's weird to go back. And this is as a person, like I have both boosted and unboosted because I figure there's value in both of them. I just don't like retroactively changing anything, especially when we had about a month between auctions. I've gone back and listened to the recordings of the Hangouts. We found out like the weekend after the auction that we weren't getting the replenishment. So there was plenty of time to talk about the value proposition that would have been changed because of the boost not getting replenished. I don't like going back retroactively and changing things because it does erode confidence in the decentralized nature of what we're doing. No one should be insulting each other about this. That's a definite.
But see, like on that very point right there, right? We got new information about boosted parcels in between auctions, right? That's that completely changed the value proposition, whether people overpaid or underpaid on the first auction. So things are changing retroactively in the game. Like that's something that I think everyone needs to accept because the game is still being designed. And
well, I'd argue that at no point, like people have said this, but I'm pretty active. I cannot find anywhere where the team mentioned boost and replenishment prior to the auction. We knew that parcels had boost, but there was no timeline on when they would start.
Yeah, I'm not
stop.
saying that. I'm saying that they didn't specify that it would not be replenished.
Yeah, so that, I mean, but that means because they didn't say anything, because it was vague, they didn't really change any information. All they did was clarify, which admittedly they should have did before the auction. I think that's why people weren't, like, after the first auction, it wasn't that big a deal, and the market adjusted accordingly, and that's why boosted parcels went for less. But we can also argue that boosted parcels went for less because parcels in general went for less because everybody was kind of tapped out on their ghost.
Yeah, I get that 100. I just want to know what the point of boosted were, because I think that we can all agree, as it is, the way that it ended up, I don't feel that they feel that it is working or it is fair or good for the game the way it is. And I think that kind of in the community, the bias of where you kind of like, like you said, Futuristic, you have both. I have both too. I'm actually way more stacked on non-boosted parcels, right? I don't mind them adding boosted. I'm not going to be here and be like insincere. It obviously would benefit me. But I think that, like, for me, the biggest point that I took away is that, oh, guys, this is not how we intended it to be.
Well, I'd say also, like, I voted no on both proposals, like to replenish the boost and to boost the boost, because it changes things. Like, although it's not going to dilute the amount, the actual like supply of the Alchemica, it's going to front run it a little because some of that Alchemica that was previously allocated to Acts 2 and 3 are now going to be moved up to Act 1. And in terms of the boost value, unfortunately, I mean, this is my take from it right now. The boosted value during the GVM auction served a similar purpose to the degen incentives for certain portals during Haunt 2. It's just a way to get people to kind of like create more volume while like bidding. I don't know if that's like, we could talk about the ethics of that or whatever, but it's the same thing. So it's like, it would be like saying like if people bid up a degen incentive portal and then got wrecked because they got a Gotchi that was like a 350 with nothing special.
Except with that Deegan portal, nobody told them like, hey, this is going to have something special and it's scarce versus all the other
they
pieces,
did,
right?
It's the incentive.
Well, sure, but I'm saying like the Gotchi itself is the same.
Yeah, I mean, you could get wrecked on the DRF for land too. It could be boosted and you still get like a bad like
100.
Start.
Which we all talked here, and I think that in the end, in us searching for boosted value, that's all we could really come up with because of how like the numbers were skewed. And I'm on the same page with you guys. I think we even said it like, oh well, like what if you have a really shitty VRF roll and like at least you have your 2,500. But here's where my rub is. I'm trying to figure out, and I can't really discern it from Jesse or from Coder Dan's information, like what was the original intent in the game for the boost, right? And like what did they really want it to be? Did they want it to be negligible? Did they want it to have X impact on the total supply? Why? Like all these things are in flux. Even like how they changed the emission for Act 1 and bringing like more of the Alchemica further, which further weakened the whole notion of a boost, right? Like these things are still in flux. And like I think that it's really a tough spot because this is, like I said earlier, this is one of those proposals that pits the community against each other, right? Like people that have boosted parcels versus people that don't. Now, if neither of them get passed, there's certainly a group of people that are going to get hurt, right? The boosted owners. I'm not so sure I can make that claim for non-boosted owners. I think that by fixing the boost, it actually makes the game more valuable, makes all the land more valuable, which affects everybody in the game because these are people that came out and invested obviously large sums, call them degens, call them apes, call them, irresponsible for bidding the amounts, but they brought money into the game and they paid for something. It's not like we're giving them a reward, for like being like, hey, thanks, for doing nothing. No, like they dropped a serious amount of money. And in a way, it's actually also kind of setting a value to the Alchemica, right? And so I don't know, like if they really, I think they're concerned that if Bruce are really broken or like valueless, that it's going to really kind of play with the economy and the current market structure and market cap of all the parcels.
See, I'll say one last thing. My worry is that it does affect the value of Alchemica because by boosting, like think about the Alchemica is being funded by a portion of the money raised from the GBM auctions, right? So the amount of Alchemica is going to stay the same, but if we're boosting, like, we're messing around with the tokenomics a little bit, and it will affect. I think it can have a long-term effect because we're not like observing how this changes Act 2 and Act 3. are players going to be as likely to play when they realize that going into Act 2 and Act 3, they're going to be making less from their Alchemica than they were in Act 1? Like that. These things
Yeah,
have
I agree with you.
implications.
Like this
And
is
this
all in
is
flux. That's part of
and
the
this is
what
where
I'm trying
the
to say.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I hear you on the information asymmetry is like we talk about it every weekend. It's one of those things that has always been there, but this is one of those, like No Future said, this is one of those big decisions that could really alter the way the tokenomics behave, either initially or later down the road in the game. So I totally hear you on the concern because it's a big like moment of contentment where, you know, you have like someone like me personally, I don't own any boosted parcels, but when I was first looking at the value proposition of a boosted parcel during the auction, I thought, well, if these things are replenishable, I could see a long-term value add to that specific parcel. But then later on, it was cleared up. I think either right before or either when the auction had started, that these wouldn't be replenished, and that drastically changed my initial investment plan. And I allocated more towards non-boosted, right? So in the end, you know, I'm happy with what I got in the end. Like I'm not complaining, but at the same time, it changes how I thought about the initial value proposition of the game. Now, I think the big thing I've been wondering all day before this space is, do we let, because this is a situation where the market has basically voted with Ghost to say we think this is worth more than what everyone is making fun of us for. We think this is worth, you know, we're going to put such a high value on it that it's going to have to be worth something. I can guarantee you somebody was thinking this when they were bidding on these things, because I can't imagine how someone would feel okay, you know, bidding such a high price on something if they didn't think there was a chance they could have enough of that in their favor to justify a value raise later on. And so
Yeah,
is that appropriate or is that not appropriate? Like, what do you guys think about that? Or is that on them for voting that much goes towards that one feature? I mean, for me
I just
personally,
don't see how people paying a lot for Aavegtochi parcels and helping set like a high valuation to the whole economy is necessarily like a bad thing or something that's like dumb. Like I get it, we're all here to make maximum revenue, but somebody paying a lot of money for a parcel in Aavegtochi is something that sends waves throughout all NFT communities, right? This is not something that should, in my opinion, be frowned upon per se, but listen, we're not here to save anybody. Every decision I've made in the game, I've calculated the risk, how much I can take, right? Boosted parcel is one of them. But like with the whole boosted thing, what haunts me and I can't get over is like the fact that, you know, Jesse and Dan and specifically Dan, because he wrote the SIG prop for 1C, was like, hey, this is not how we intend boost to work. And like everybody's just dismissing that. And like we don't have the data no future. You know what I mean? Like they do. They see like how in ways that we can't see who has spent money, why they spent money, right? And like I don't know, it just I think that people are more passionate about it, less, even though they're front running and saying it's because they don't want the game to go through this like uncertainty, this and that. I think it's because a lot of people said, oh, I got this, even though everybody that's an insider knows boosts up, we're going to buy up all the non-boosted parcels because we have the alpha. And now a lot of people are kind of stuck in that position and they feel that's unfair that the meta's changed. But like the meta, even for boosted parcels, has changed consistently from the start. And even like the meta is still changing for how much Alchemica, for example, a parcel gets. So everybody took that risk when purchasing, in my opinion. And that's all I'm saying. And look, I'm not a diehard 1C. I just find it interesting that they're trying to fix boost, and I'm open-minded to it. It doesn't have to be the way that they've proposed. And I just also feel that yeah, like this has kind of shown that, you know, it's probably important that Aavegtochi's grown to the point that I think that it's really important for everybody to kind of keep focusing and figuring out how, as a community, all of us, me included, everybody in here, can be like, hey, making sure that, you know, before these big auctions happen and stuff, that, you know, that as much as clear as possible, which I find interesting because this is pre-release of the game. So this is all very kind of subjective. I haven't really gotten too much solid information in stone, you know, even like, I guess I get that it's not inflating, it's just the emission, but even how much each parcel is going to get in Act 1, that changed, right? But nobody's against that.
yeah, I mean,
Everybody
I
wants
was
some
gonna
more
say,
Alchemica.
Yeah,
I
I was
was
gonna say
against
let's
that.
not.
I'm against that.
I was gonna say let's not forget 0.1a because that is proposing the whole increase of the general alchemic tokenomics. Now, that does that do you guys think that ties in with boosting the boosts? I mean, I'm not swaying this argument one way or the other. I'm just trying to ask some questions.
Well, without
But
modifying the boost, if you had that massive amount of mission up front, then like at least how the boost worked before, because now I kind of went back and forth with Coder Dan this morning in the chat, and he was explaining that the replenishment would be 10 times in one act or something like that. So it'd be like 28,000 tech like for the whole, I guess, act or season. So I'm still getting information and kind of like digesting, right? But like the point being is that information's still changing all around. So like when I went shopping for parcels, I was like, well, gosh, they're saying it's working like this, but I can't even get a really solid answer. I would come on these spaces. No one could tell me, hey, is it really only going to be one time or is it going to be multiple times? Then we finally got some solid information between both, the first and the second auction. And I adjusted my strategy accordingly, like probably many other people that were taking in the kind of the alpha at the time because it wasn't widely spread out per se. I believe they did put it in writing in a Medium post between both of them, which I really appreciate. But I feel like we're all dealing with those situations. So I feel like it's just as risky for everybody that's like, oh, well, boosted parcels are going to suck. There's no way they're ever going to fix that. So I'm not going to buy not one.
See, the thing is though, like, the thing that frustrates me about all this is like, I own boosted parcels, I own non-boosted parcels. Regardless of what type of parcel I own, I bought it at the current price because I think in some X amount of time in the future, not now, but like in the future, these parcels, if we're thinking like Sandlot, this is going to be worth more in the future. So if you bought a boosted parcel for 45K Ghost, I would think that that's in a valuable area on the map. The boost might not be where the value proposition is. It's going to be owning this land that is Genesis land. So like that's why I don't understand this need to like placate people with additional boosts, changing tokenomics, like making decisions after the fact. We could have had conversations about this. I'd be honest, like I wouldn't be as opposed to these proposals if the team came to us first and talked to us about it and got feedback before they made the proposal. Because what they did instead, unintentionally potentially, is that they kind of lit a fuse on a keg and started this like whole drama that we have because this is a very divisive issue.
I mean, while they lit a fuse, I think this is really healthy conversation for us to know like what we want in our DAO, like what we expect from each other, what we expect from Pixelcraft, and what sort of communication that we need going into future auctions. So this is a stress test of that entire thing, and I think it's clear we're going to do something about the boosts. I just don't know if 5x right now is the answer, but I think we know that we want to use those, that they want them to be a meaningful mechanic moving forward. And like this is an incredible team and community, and I think we can make that happen. And I think that all of us will have learned from this experience in a good way. It's moving us forward.
I agree with that. And I mentioned it in the DAO chat, and I was a big part, and so was Master Yang of the Fork Wars in Bitcoin, which was really they're a product of a lot of people caring about something. That's just the fact, right? Like nobody would be in here on a Sunday morning, Saturday morning, or Sunday night, saying their 2 cents unless they really, really cared, and that's mega bullish for the game. But yeah, I think that, Dr. Wagme, like, I think that you would agree that this particular issue is interesting because it is like puts the community kind of against each other in a way, depending on like where you lied in the auction. And I think that for me being in this community, that's a first that I've been in this position where it's like, usually it's like all fellow Gotchians together, like moving forward, in one, where this is like, I can see like, hey, a division amongst the issue. And furthermore, it's kind of hard, and I think, to get representation of this issue because proportionally the boosts, right, there's definitely way less people that bought boosts because boosts were scarce, which again, I don't understand why they would make something so scarce. I brought this, I don't know if anybody here kind of can talk me through this, but beyond, and I guess maybe the argument would be what No Futuristic was saying would be like this like location / like Genesis provenance, right? But why, right? Let's say with the fully surrounded Keck Spacious, right? I looked at them, right? There's literally 17 out of 20,000 parcels. So, I mean, if it was just supposed to be a novelty, I will accept that. if the team members say, hey, yeah, boosts were never supposed to really be something that was worth a lot of money that people invested in. It was instead supposed to be this novelty about you having a parcel, kind of like the same way that having a one-of-one Gotchi is, which somebody made the point on that today in the chat. And like, well, I don't think that that's what they intended for boosts. I don't think anybody that was designing the map with all, with all these colors would be like, oh, let's just these spacious, fully surrounded. Let's only make 17 of these.
Well, I just want to jump in and actually, I just want to comment on that. Actually, what you just said with the keck and the visual representation on the map. If I saw that on the map without any information, I would actually assume if these are going to be permanent landmarks that they would replenish without being given any information on them. I would look at that map and say, these colorful looking, really aesthetically appealing parts of the map are going to have some long-term benefits to buying that in that area. Whether that was a minimal amount of research someone did before they bid on it or not, I don't know. And that could be the case that someone just literally
BRF that decided where the boosts were. I might be wrong on that, but I do vaguely remember them saying that. I mean, while they did design the map, that where the boosts are was all chain link BRF.
Okay, well, that's another interesting point, but I think the design choice of doing that and creating those colorful areas at that time was maybe not in line with this whole idea of them being replenished. Like, it actually doesn't make sense that they wouldn't be replenished after the first great battle. Just speaking on that one point. Now, the other debate is, was that right to make that decision so late in the game after someone had made their purchases already? And I think that's where there's a lot of frustration about this.
I would say for me, like I said, I own both types of parcels. I don't think these proposals actually affect my bag. Like, it's going to make it worth less. The thing I'm scared about that's going to affect my bag is the uncertainty and that this creates. When people feel like rule changes could happen, that's dangerous for the game. Long-term dangerous. Like, so it's not about like whether my bag was affected based on this one proposal. Like, if I get more boosts or less boosts, any of that. It's more the long-term implications of our decisions now.
My thing is, like, when has this game stopped changing? They just changed the kinship, right? The mechanic of that. I know that they changed the aging mechanic. Like, these are all expectations that like all of us should have investing in a game that's not launched yet. And that's what I'm saying. People like to cite that argument conveniently when it's in their favor, yet the game is changing constantly. And like I keep citing, even specifically with the boost situation, even the clarity about whether it was going to be a one-time boost or not was never made. I remember even in the beginning before the first auction, they didn't even release the map first, right? They released that color map with the rainbow. Everybody started circulating information that like those were going to be the areas with the particular, resources, right? Wherever the rainbow lied. It's been constantly, and I'm not like slighting the developers. I get it. This stuff's hard. Communication is hard. There's always going to be like information dissemination issues. Like, it's a ripple effect, right? But, I think that it's not fair to say like, oh, people are going to lose faith in the game because it's changing. Like, it hasn't stopped changing. Even after people have made investments, like even changing kinship significantly at any point in the game changes things for people that got in early versus people that are getting in now. The game is not set in stone by any means now. And I think that the main point of these SIG props, when they sat around and thought about it, it was like, dude, if we don't get the fixes in now, we're never going to get them in because there's so many interested parties. This is a major core mechanic. Let's fix the kinship. Let's fix the boost. Let's fix the Alchemica emission with Act 1 issue. Like, that's why it all came at us all at once. Like, these guys are being pushed against a wall for launch, and these are obviously things that they see. But the community, because of, like, all this, like, again, like, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I saw it in the chat, and people want to say that people weren't being, offensive. And listen, no futuristic, I love memes, dude. Like, I don't have a problem with your memes. I thought it was hilarious, right? But I'm just trying to say that it's no one can tell me that people weren't being insulted or badgered yesterday and said that, oh, no, this isn't going to happen for you, buddy, because you don't deserve a bailout. Even though, even in the SIG prop and even in the forum posts, the creators are like, no, this isn't a bailout. This is not what this is about. Like, this is not how boosts were supposed to work, right? And so it's like, I don't buy that whole, like, oh,
they did
people
say
are going to have undermined the game confidence because the game is changing. It hasn't stopped changing since I got in.
in that
I mean,
one
I'll say
that-
this change though is the first one that I've noticed that happened directly after like millions of dollars in revenue were pulled in. Like people were pissed off about the H2 leaderboards, but that happened before we had a H2. So we had discussion. No one had put up money yet. This is after the fact. That's troubling.
Yeah, you're messing with someone's like actual financial stuff. If this was just a normal game, like making those changes retroactively would not be as bad. And they also said in 1C that they were trying to change the boost so that it matched the amount that people were valuing it at, which does, in that language, sound like a bailout.
Well, it also they said that, but they specifically said, and I'll pull up the sentence, like, this is a boost not worth anything is not what we intended, right? Like, or a boost with minimal impact or consequence is not what we intended. I don't have the exact sentence in front of me right now, but it was pretty like specific, you know. And again, like, this goes back to what I was saying, like, I'm curious, like, I think they should AMA and come out and be like, look, this is what we originally intended with boosts. Like, we intended it to be 15% of the alchemical, or 10%, or 20%, or 30%. And like, we missed the mark bad. And this is what we really want to do. But I don't feel like we per se have gotten that comms, and they don't really necessarily owe it to us. But, you know, I'm just speaking more to changing in the game. Like, we're innovating and making things up as we go, as well as them. So, like, and I talked to Master Yang, what are the greatest risks to this game, right, for me as an investor personally? Like, one of them is, like, an inability to stop cheating that undermines the system. And, like, the other is, like, a drastic game change that literally breaks the economy because, you know, I've been there in MMORPGs when, like, a breaking change can just, like, completely make it, you know, impossible to play or no fun anymore, or, you know, really, really mess things up. And I feel those things once the game is launched. But I do feel that, like, we are in, like, this little, like, period before the game is launched where this is when you're supposed to try to get it right. And I would defer, and I know it's a DAO, and I get the decentralized aspect, and I know we all own the game, but I would defer at this moment in time my vote to what they decide, because they see way more than I do. They see mechanics. They see literally, like, long-term 5-10 year plan. And that's why I kind of, like, that's what I took from it. And maybe I misinterpreted the post and, you know, went too far with this, we don't feel that this is the way boosts were supposed to work. But they said that. They did.
I think we're hyper-focusing in on the boost, and I think we need to more focus in on the transparency that Pixelcraft provides to us, because if we had known this information before, like, they wouldn't have affected people's bags and people wouldn't feel as, like, screwed over as they do, and it wouldn't be this whole big thing. We just need to, moving forward, harp on that they need to be transparent and have better information dissemination to us so we can make more informed decisions when we're providing the money to them and they're taking 40% and then end up making a shit ton of money.
And let me piggyback off that. I think we need to alter our expectations a little bit as the community, because I think they push out information too soon to us sometimes, right? They're like trying to get it right. We're pressuring them, like, get us this info, get us the white paper. And I think we need patience as a community to understand they're trying to get that to us. But when we are demanding it and, like, frothing at the mouth because we're so obsessed and in love with this game, I think things like this slip through and there's mistakes in the calculation. So while we do need transparency and communication, we also need patience from the community to know that they need to get it right. And this is a good learning experience for Pixelcraft to know, like, well, fuck, like, we need to make sure our calculations are right before we print something on Medium site. And it's okay, guys. Like, this is a signal prop. Like, we are going to, as a community, half the community wants this to be stronger. And I think people like me are up for making these boosts more meaningful also. And it's going to happen. We're going to get there. Even if the signal prop fails, I think we're going to see those boosts be meaningful and achieve their vision.
See, I'll say I'm like, I agree with you 100% about the information. And I worry, for myself at least, that maybe the hangouts are more damaging than positive to the community, because a lot of this information is because we are pressuring them during the hangout, and they slip up sometimes and they say things, and then we take what they say and run with it before it's actually been documented or made into anything else. So it's like it's a tightrope that we have to walk with this stuff. So I've suggested in the DAO discussion forum that maybe another ambassador teams up with me to take notes about what happens during the hangouts, because if you're not there, then you miss it, and then sometimes it's up in the air. It's better if we, like, somehow consolidate this information and make sure that we don't have, like, many different narratives of what we think is happening based on vague information that we've received in the hangout. And that's partially my fault, because I host them, and I like getting the team to slip up because, like Dr. Wagner said, we're all super excited about this and really like invested emotionally. And that's a positive and a negative, because my investment is not just my money, it's my time, but it's also the love I have for this game. So if anything happens to kind of like make me question, like, I'm not going to lie, I've sold 3 Gotchis, some land, and some wearables since these proposals come out because my investment is altered. And I'm not jumping out of the game, but to me, it's like there's a little bit of a flight to safety because my risk profile has changed. And I'm a risk manager before anything else. So I have to kind of make decisions in a logical way to protect my bag, because my bag isn't just my bag, it's my family's bag. And it's like Dr. Wagner, he's representing a whole bunch of different people in investments. I'm going out and trying to get people to come into this. And if the information is changing, it's dangerous for me as a person to put this out to other people if there is a chance that something could change, and then now they're upset that, whatever meta has changed for them and their investment.
I just wanna say real quick, like with what Dr. Wagner is saying also, like this is not an easy thing to do with these 5 proposals or whatever. It's really hard to implement this in any game, never mind one that has real money involved in it, so I understand that portion of it. And then also there's no ill intent here, like these people, Jesse and Dan, have ran other successful projects, and that brought them to Aavegtochi, like their love of doing this brought them to Aavegtochi and to create this amazing game and bring the communities together. But something like this was bound to come up eventually, especially with so many things in development, and there being some information asymmetry that gets released every now and then, through different means. And some of the information isn't given out clearly all the time because there's so many things going on. So sometimes things do slip through the cracks, and something like this was going to happen, and it was going to test the community anyway. And, once we work this out, it will show the strength of our community that we can actually come through on difficult decisions like this, even though, there was maybe different ways this could have been handled and different ways it could have been resolved. But we're here now, and like we got to deal with this now. So I think if we can deal with it in a healthy way without creating divisions within our community, that's going to be a win for me. And regardless of what the votes are. But yeah, we should definitely debate about it. And also, I think we need more clarification on a lot of these issues, because it seems like, even for me personally, I wish I would have understood a lot of this a lot more. But those are my two pieces.
It's a unique time too. That's the truth. We're part of something, the genesis of something, like something really special, and we'll look back on this journey and be like, wow, that was awesome, right? And so this certainly is I don't think it's always going to be this tumultuous. I don't think that I think that a lot of this stuff is just we don't have a game yet, and everyone, like Dr. Wagby said, is clamoring for information, and it's good. It's engagement. I think it's good that you do that. No futuristic, like, tease information out of them. But I think that, like, it has highlighted in this time of like pre-sale / purchasing / like deploying capital into the game, kind of like some of these comms issues, affecting some more than others. And like, I even think in terms of language, right? Like Aavegtochi is striving to be a global game. And if all the hangouts are in English and all the alphas in English, not during the game, because I think the game playing time is going to be something different. And I think people during gameplay are even going to be a little bit more specific about which information they share and their strategies and whatnot. But like during this like pre-sale capital deployment time, I think that trying to be as clear and as consistent as possible is super important. And I'm not completely dismissing No Future, this whole like, oh, things shouldn't change. But like, when I first came into this, I was like, oh, this is the game design phase. Like, these guys might, fudge a number or like make a really like bad decision that they got to roll back, right? I think part of the reason they're taking 40% is to have that mechanism in the future to do something with that Ghost and Alchemica. There's all these weird things, right? Like, what if there's some weird bug, an inflation bug, or someone dies and takes a huge portion of the economy with them and the keys are locked, right? Like this is something new and different that we're trying, and I think they're trying their best, and I think they're doing a great job. And kind of that was my whole thing with like the SIG props is like, oh wow, like look, man, they saw a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff that was like worth bringing up to us and talking about because they feel that there's something wrong with it.
And we're going to get it right, guys. They're so talented. Like, we're going to figure this out. And I think it's really clear where the community wants something done about the parcels. So just because the SIG prop fails doesn't mean we're not going to boost them or figure it out or have more mechanics come out of it. But anyways, I appreciate all you guys. I got to go take care of a little one. Brief plug for the DAO Treasury Task Force. Feel free to shoot me a message on Discord if you guys have questions about it. But vote either way, because I'm really hoping we can get our Treasury funds put to work.
Thanks, Dr. Wagner. And thanks for your input.
I will say very quickly, I love that Dr. Wagner is DTF. That's very exciting.
Hey guys, how's it going? Been listening to... Hey everybody. Hey Hefe. Hey No Futuristic. And everybody else. Been listening to some of the, the talk so far, the spaces so far, and some really good points all around. And, I'll be honest with you guys. I think that like the last couple of days has been super entertaining, at least for me. Like I kind of love the political theater, and I kind of love like, just the fact that everybody's just so hyped up about, something that's controversial. I mean, so far my experience with Aavegtochi has been kind of like everybody gets along and we're all having a good time. But, I'm now starting to finally see that beginning, like portions of where there's going to be some things that are hotly debated. And, I might have missed maybe some of the earlier stuff, but I just want to say that this has just been really, for me at least, exciting and fun. Whether or not, they end up doing anything with boosted parcels or not, doesn't really matter. Most of our lands are non-boosted. But, at the end of the day, like, I want to say thank you guys all for your participation and allowing, me and Yin as semi-new to the game to come in and voice our opinions. And I'm just happy that the majority of people have been super respectful. Even though it's been highly debated, it's also been, for the most part, pretty respectful, with the exception of maybe a few people. But I think that everybody's still finding their way in terms of how to talk to each other. It's growing as a game. So it's just been really cool the last couple of days.
Yeah, I'll also say, like, in the past, I know No Future, probably Golden, you guys probably know, there have been times in Aavegtochi where, I felt I got rugged a little bit, like the Venli airdrop, the Venli marketplace auction thing that we had a while ago, where I missed out on a bunch of cheap wearables, even missing out on the initial launch of Haunt 1. I mean, I missed the whole thing because it sold out in a minute. And, there's some people that ended up with like 15 Aavegtochis and some people that ended up with none. So, like, and all those people, I can guarantee most of them ended up with an Aavegtochi eventually anyway. Maybe some walked away to their own misbenefit or whatever. But the ones that stuck around, like, we all benefit. We all stuck around after those. And the team always proved that they could pull through and make things work after. So it's not that, I'm not saying that this is people getting rugged in any way possible. But what I'm saying is, there have been moments in the community before where things didn't go as expected, and they tended to pull through, and things worked out in the end anyway.
Yeah, I think that's that's the definition of why NFTs are just so exciting to me. I mean, who hasn't experienced NFT FOMO? Like, whether it be like, oh, I miscalculated this, or I should have bought that, or I missed out on that. It's always going to happen. It's part of being in the space. And, some of us are a little bit more emotional about it than others. But, for me, I just think that, the debate the last couple of days was just super, I don't know, I get a lot of entertainment out of it. And this is kind of why I'm here. I want to see some of these things debated. Now, from a personal viewpoint, and I know some people don't agree with it because, it's very virtuous to want community input. But I kind of resonated, I kind of stand a little bit with what Dr. Wagner was saying with respect to how the devs put out some of the information, maybe a little bit too quickly, for our own good. And I think in this case, I would have probably preferred to either see a little bit more tact for this proposal or a little bit more kind of a better approach. And frankly, you know, I've even said a couple times where I felt like, I don't know if this is a matter that should have been voted on. I think that they should just went with something or, you know, however they intended and let the dice roll where they may, and we'll deal with it as we go. But, you know, that's Dr. Wagner made a good point with respect to that. You know, whether or not you guys think that every matter needs to be voted on or not. I felt like this is one of those game design things that's like, well, I can, you know, everybody's just going to show their bags, or they're, you know, this is going to be something that's like, you're not going to get a really much of an answer. But what I think maybe what they were looking for was just, what are the viewpoints on both sides? And I think they've already probably internally come up with a decision, if I had to guess by this point, and got what they needed out of the community. And it's probably going to be something like splitting it down the middle or doing something alternative.
Yeah, see, for me, I'll bring up a couple of examples that, like, why I feel the way I guess I do, like, watching. Like, the first example would be Season 1 rarity farming. I believe it was round 3. We had, you know, Snapshot is coming up. Everybody in the community knows that the Snapshot is the same time every 2 weeks, same day, like, literally 2 weeks apart. And the day of the Snapshot, the team announced unilaterally, without speaking to anybody, that they were going to delay the Snapshot by 1 day because some people felt they were not informed that a Snapshot was happening. And like at the time, I didn't care. I was like a brand new member, but there were people who were pissed because that materially affected the boards. Like if you have another day of petting, that could affect where you place on Kinship, or people can now make different, you know, like change their strategy. Like a person like Felon at that point would always dress his Gotchi at the very last minute. So like his strategy would be kind of nerfed a little bit, because if he got dressed before, then you kind of knew what he was coming in with, even though he was going to win anyway. So people didn't like that. Like they didn't come and speak to us. So like if we look at the controversy of H2, another contentious time in the Gotchiverse, that time they started the discussion in the DAO discussion forum first. We had a forum. We went to the DAO forum, like that separate website, and we had a whole long thread where everybody kind of talked about the pros and cons of what they thought, and then the team put up a proposal. And it was still, you know, not everybody was happy, but the process was a little better. This, I feel like, I honestly don't know where these two proposals came from. There was no indication prior that people were unhappy that I saw. Like, I haven't been in the Discord as much as I have in the last day, and I think now our DAO is definitely top 5 in terms of engagement. There's no way it's not, like, as much voting as we're doing. But it's like, my questions, I want those kind of answered. Like, where did this, because even Jesse, I think yesterday stated that, like, the boosted issue became kind of an issue after the second land auction. So, like, who were the voices who were the ones that voiced an issue? Like, let's talk about that so that we have some transparency. And, you know, I think they should have went to the DAO forum before they went to actually put up a SIG prop.
I'm actually really curious about that No Future, because like that was something that, you know, people were kind of like insinuating in the DAO chat that like, oh, they got bullied into this, right? I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's what happened. I don't know if people were complaining about the boosted parcels, like, and that is interesting because a lot of people were saying that like, oh yeah, people were complaining this and that, but that's not what I got from like reading the Medium posts, and that's not what I got from reading the SIG props. Like, and I thought, yeah, like I'm with you. Like, where did these come from? Like, and that's why I kind of gave it the weight of like, oh, this SIG prop was proposed by Jesse and Coder Dan. So they must have seen something in the data or, you know, in the market value of the parcels, whatever. I don't know what like pushed them to do this. And I am also curious about that because like, you know, it shouldn't be a bullying situation or anyone with enough influence to like affect them to do something like that. So if it was genuine and it did come just from their concern, that would also kind of like mean something to me.
Yeah, like I don't know. I remember I saw somewhere, I'm trying to find it now, the DAO discussion, that it was like that he mentioned. It was like people were talking about it the day, like days after the second auction. It was Jesse who stated it. I'm gonna look for that now, just so that I'm certain about that. But even in the DAO proposal, like in the SIG prop proposal, it kind of comes off like, I think Hepe said it earlier. It gives this impression that it does seem like they were pressured.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at.
We have the DAO proposal still, right? So go ahead, Hefe. I'm just going to pull it up now because I just want to reread it for myself.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, you know, like voting with Ghost, you know, there was a lot of money thrown at these parcels. So I mean, I'm not saying one thing or the other. I just thought that was interesting how that happened. I mean, it, if that thing passes, my question is, like if an item in the game becomes super expensive, like let's say like the Thave hammer goes from like 1,000 to like 10,000 ghost, and it just stays there for a really long time, is that hammer eventually going to get voted to get some really like crazy superpower? People push a proposal through that says, this weapon is like one of the most valuable weapons in the game. Why doesn't it have this really super OP thing, right? Because that's kind of running along the same lines, just with the way the proposal's framed. But just looking at the numbers in the proposal without, mentioning any of that stuff, I wonder if this is being proposed because of the base boost to all the parcels. Like, I mean, they mention it in which proposal was it? 0.1a. They mention how this little thing they do on a reasonable parcel, if on a reasonable parcel you have 28,000 FUD initially, like right now, after this has been implemented, your reasonable parcel will have an average of 113,000 FUD, right? So that's almost 4x of what was initially proposed. So, I mean, that could bring up issues with what No Future was saying, that maybe there's some unforeseen consequences overall with doing this across all the parcels. But just in relation to boosts, I wonder if the boosts are being proposed because of this reason, because they see after 0.1a passing, other people who got the boosts will eventually anyway say, well, our boosts are less insignificant now. We voted with our money that these boosts were worth X amount in ratio to the original amount of Alchemica, but now the original amount of Alchemica has been boosted 4 or 5 times, so why don't our boosts get boosts as well? I wonder if that was the the thing behind what they were thinking. I wonder that, because that wasn't stated anywhere. But
yeah, so look, I have it opened up. So yes, 1B links to 1C in the sense, and 1A links to 1B. They say specifically failing to implement boost replenishment, right? So I'm in 1B right now. Failing to implement boost replenishment alongside patch 0.1A, boosted tokenomics would result in a dramatically nerfed use case for surface level boosts, which is contrary to our world and auction map design, right? So that's 1B, right? And then 1C begins, even if 1B is passed, boost will still be undervalued compared to the value of the market as assigned to them, yada, 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 right? So they do link all of these kind of like to each other in a way. And they do specifically say in 1B that because of 1A, that it would completely make boost as they are currently, even without 1B or 1C, completely useless, right? Because of like the emission inflation coming forward and everybody getting so much more Alchemica to start with, like the boost would really be insignificant. So 1B was part of the solution. And then in the beginning of 1C, they go and saying, hey, that's not enough because of the value that people ascribed to the boost in the auction, right? Which that goes back to the like whole ape argument, like that was dumb, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then, they kind of finish that whole 1C thing with, a couple of closing paragraphs. And like what stuck out to me was a boost without much meaning is not something we intended, which that's where I was like, oh, well, they like realized that like the numbers don't work out. They fudged the numbers on the initial Alchemica distribution. That's going to affect the boost. Now we got to fix the boost. But even like replenishing is not enough. And like it was all connected to me in a way. But what I saw the community doing is saying, oh my God, 1A, oh yeah, baby, more Alchemica for everyone. Woo! And then 1B and 1C, oh, whoa, those guys, those apes, like they deserve what they're going to get. They overpaid. Let's not bail them out. And so that's where I was like kind of getting rubbed. I was like, well, you guys trust the developers. They're telling you the math of XYZ. Why are you being so dismissive to their other suggestions? That was the point I was trying to make and whatnot.
So just real quickly, I want to point out, I went back into the Discord and looked for what Jesse said, and I want to like clarify, he does stress that he was not pressured for a bailout by anybody. So I want to make sure that's like known because I must have misread that. So that is we should be aware of that. The team, the COO of the team has made it clear that it is not because they were pressured. It's more that they looked at the data and figured it out. So even with that being true, and I accept and appreciate that, I still think that, like, because we talk about them having information that we don't have, so they know best. So, like, I mean, they put out the documents, and, like, it's just, they should have known that this, like, earlier, that this was going to be an issue, especially after the auctions, to try to fix these things. I think it could have happened before the second auction, and we would have had a way different experience, because then everybody could have been on the same playing field in terms of information.
This kind of
I agree.
goes back to again, you know, what Dr. Wagner said, what you've said, no futuristic, and you know, it sounds like they made a mistake from what from Master Yin rereading it, from you confirming no futuristic, that there's no outside pressure or backdoor kind of pressure happening. They probably should have approached this differently. To throw it out in a proposal like out of nowhere, because that's, I think, how a lot of us saw it, might have been short-sighted. I think a lot of this like hot controversy and debate that's happening right now was the approach of the devs, and no one's perfect, and I don't take it personally or anything like that. I think that this really is the design miscalculation, and maybe it's not 5x, maybe it's not 1x, I don't know, but if they feel like this was a big misstep, I feel like they should have just either approached it differently if they really wanted community input, or made the changes and then dealt with the aftermath then and there, regardless of how either side felt about it.
I think it might have been a double whammy where like they they miscalculated, but then it got really exaggerated further by people aping boosted parcels, right? So it's like, oh, we
if you're gonna ask,
but then the market assigning these crazy values to boosted parcels made that problem even bigger. It's kind of like
if you're gonna ask the community, like, hey, vote on this topic, we made a miscalculation. Okay, well then give us context. Like, you want us to vote on this with zero context, just that like you made a mistake or it's not what you intended? Like, do you have any math? Can you show us like why this was not the case, so we can have like a more objective vote about this, rather than us just saying, hey, we want this or we don't want this, depending on what our bags are or how we
like the blog post has pretty good math in terms of like showing the current situation versus their proposed situation, and they did make it transparent with pie graphs and whatnot. But I think what we identified before is the rub, and I think maybe like people are underestimating how linked 1A, B, and C actually are, and how the team approached thinking about the whole problem that we have going on here, which is obviously bigger in terms of just the boost, but actual Alchemica supply, when to release it, their calculations, which I believe they said were like, oh, we miscalculated how much harvesters would cost or how fast people could get them up, whatever it was, you know what I mean? And they were pretty transparent on that. But I think to your part, Master Yang, was like, maybe it should have been like, look, we messed up the numbers. These are the proposed numbers that we think work. Like, pick one or the other. But I think saying like, oh no, should we do this or not? That's where it really like ruffled feathers. And like, I think that, rightly so, some people that adjusted their strategy with the information they had between auction 1 and 2 were rightly upset. And there's a lot more people that have non-boosted parcels. So I don't even think you'll ever get really like a true number. It would take a lot and a very convincing proposal for the non-boosted people to, come together and be like, yeah, let's make this right. And certainly 5X was not it. I don't know what it is, but I am glad that there is some general consensus and kind of some discovery about like, oh, well, maybe it's not just about bailing people out. Maybe like this is about the numbers, something being off here. I think that for certainly the 1A to 1B situation, that they said it so clearly. Like, hey, if we increase the emission schedule and we front load some of this emission in the beginning of the game, we're going to completely nerf boost.
Yeah, if you're increasing the Alchemic and all the parcels, then it really diminishes the amount of boost. I don't think 5x. I think it was like, I was looking at the percentage. It was like boost will become like 60% of the entire parcel. I don't think versus like what it was making it, which was like 30% or something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think that we do need to boost the boost based off of the increasing the base Alchemica in the actual parcel itself, because then it won't. I mean, I'm not saying it to justify like the actual price that people are paying, but it does diminish the importance of that boost, which they've stated. I don't think it's 5x. Maybe that boost becomes like maybe a 40% of that parcel, or like close maybe to like a 50%. I don't know what that exact number should be, but I do appreciate that we're going through this DAO process instead of them just changing it on us, because that can feel even more ruggy than us having a civil discussion about something that we have like maybe different opinions on, and that's completely fine. And I actually like would prefer it that way than the other way around.
I'm looking at the GEO, the top secret document, and there are two lines that strike me, which I think are what potentially caused a lot of this issue that we're having here. And one of them it's the first line. It's over how long a period will these alchemica be distributed? It says the Gotchiverse is an expansive world with numerous regions to visit and explore. By our estimations, we expect the discovery process to spread over a period of at least 5 years, spread over multiple acts. So that's kind of like, it gives it this like kind of permanence, but doesn't really speak directly of boost. But then there's a line later in the report near the very end where it's talking about the great battles. Prophecies have hinted that 9 great battles will occur in which the liquidators will break through the citadel walls and attempt to plunder the great portal, which will be devastated for the Gotchikin. However, there appears to be a silver lining. These traumatic events shake the foundation of the Gotchiverse, uncovering new wealth that was previously hidden below the surface. After each great battle, a great replenishing is bound to occur, permanently boosting the alchemica found under each realm parcel. So I wonder how much of that language right there, like, because I read that, and in hindsight, I could see how someone would think that can show how a boost would remain through all the acts. I wonder if that is what initially caused the vagueness, because they don't otherwise say that boosts will exist longer or won't exist after one. It's like that's pretty much the only indication that I could see in this report that kind of leads one to think that boost would be there permanently.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Looking back at that, and I think that like now understanding what they're trying to do, to me that just means that everybody's going to roll the Chainlink VRF again, like, after the great battle, and then we're going to like get a random amount again, and your roll might be a little different than your first roll. But what you're saying is true, right? Like they even use the word boost. Like it was just all very ambiguous, and there was things specified, especially between 1 and 2, because I came in here and like you guys like confirmed it for me, like, hey, yes, like they're not going to be replenished, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So things did change, and like things are changing now with like, now we're getting way more alchemica per parcel, like, so that's all. Like, and I think that everybody just needs to be open to the risk of the meta changing right now, even in the next 30 to 60 days, because the game hasn't launched. And there is no, guarantee, no futuristic that like they won't make changes that piss people off so bad it undermines the confidence of the game. I think that's a risk that we all take, and we'll continue to take, unfortunately. But we're innovating something new that doesn't really exist.
I agree. I mean, but that's why I've made the decision to like lighten my bag a little. I'm not taking a lot off the table. In fact, I'm just converting assets into Ghost and staking because I think that's a safe bet no matter what. But it does change, like for me at least, because I recognize that I felt very emotionally affected by this. And so in order to cure that, I'm going to lessen my risk a little bit. But in a way, I'm really not, because if I was, I should be selling off my Ghost and going into like USD. But I still believe in this project in a big way. I just don't like, it just scares me. It scares the shit out of me for people, like, especially with newcomers coming in, because I mean, I was looking at the like something from the wiki somebody posted. I think it was Bearded, and it was kind of saying how like the team is like pretty much from the beginning have said that they're not going to protect the OGs because the goal is mass adoption, not like this being a Ponzi scheme where the first early adopters are the ones that benefit the most. But there has to be a balance between the two, because the early investors are the ones that get everything off the floor. So we have to be careful, because our game is expanding, but we still are at like, how many people were like participated in the last auction? It was only 1,800 people. We're still small. So you can't really afford to alienate the people who are currently playing the game for people who might never join.
Well, a lot of people in here onboard people, right? Like, I think we can all agree, Hefe, no futuristic, like tons of people in the audience. Lord Hill, I see him there, right? Like, at least for me, I don't think there's ever been a time somebody I'm onboarding in real life that is like, oh, I'm going to get a boosted parcel. And I'm like, no, don't get a boosted parcel. Why do they feel that? Why do they think that, right? Like, why are the new users coming in and ascribing this value to the parcels? And that's something I was kind of meditating on like this morning too. Like, you know, and kind of like fed back into some of the thoughts I had about kind of what's been going on too. And like, I'm sure you guys have come across that as well. I know Dr. Wagme like said earlier that he has as well. And he's had to steer people and be like, hey, no, that's not the meta. That's not, you know, good. You don't need a boosted parcel. Right. So, you know, that is like a huge contradiction, like with what I believe. And in the beginning of this talk, for the people who weren't here, I'd be like, I'd love to know what the team's original intent was with the boost. Like, how did they see it playing into the game? Like, what proportion, what percentage did they originally calculate, so that I can understand like how far we've come from that, and why they need to fix it, right? But make no mistake, new people are still coming in droves and being like, no, I need to go get a boosted parcel. And like, we all know in here that that's a bad idea as things stand. I don't know now with these SIG props, it's a different proposition, but I'm sure we've all had to, you know, tender that question before.
Also, very quickly, something popped up that it was dropped into the Discord earlier, and I want to make sure everybody knows about it. There was a change to the wiki about, or just one of the papers about what's going to happen for the third auction. And it appears that the team is only intending to do 5,000 parcels for the third Citadel auction before we go live and the first public sale happens, which I think is incredibly smart of them, because, you know, we're facing issues with liquidity at this point. So by limiting it to 5,000, assuming that we have 20% of those going towards auctions, I think that's really good, because it's going to create like a more competitive bidding environment for that auction. And then we don't have to worry about, or the assumption is we don't have to worry about the floor prices dropping because there's too much supply.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, that's just them, looking out, because we saw that starting to happen near the end of the last auction, where there was a liquidity starting to kind of dry up. You know, the floors were a little bit lower this time around, so you could probably, if it was the same amount, you could probably expect the same trend to happen, right? So that's good you mentioned that. And then just like going back on the whole parcel thing, I think this is a really good conversation. And I think the thing that I was focused on was the ratio of the boosts, because I'm like, okay, you know, everyone's going to get a boost on their reasonable parcel, no matter whether it has a natural boost or not. You're going to get an extra, 4 helpings of Alchemica. But here it says in the proposal, between the proposed and the new, the initial proposal was only for it initially was for Act 1 total, but now they're saying that amount is only for round 1 of Act 1, and then Act 1 total is like 4x the amount. So are they splitting up each act into 3 or 4 rounds? Is that what's happening? I don't know, but that's something to clear up as well when we have our next hangout, is like, what do these rounds exactly mean? Because I don't think that was introduced before. I think that's something new.
Yeah, I think that's new information that I haven't heard before, that makes it still a little vague. Like, they're still working out a lot of the mechanics of the game, which it's completely fine. It's a game. I just wish maybe it was more like community made decisions on like what those mechanics should be. But I mean, I know that DAO kind of goes a little bit more slower, and sometimes when you leave it up to people, like they don't exactly know what they're doing. So you obviously leave it up to the experts. We need to find some happy medium here.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys, I got to split out a little early today. Thank you guys for having me on and like say my 2 cents to all of you in the audience. Like, if we tussled today, I appreciate you. I respect you. This game's a blast. I hope we keep working all together to make it, better and make a ton of dough in the process. And I'm happy to be here regardless of what happens with the boosted parcels. I'm staying. I ain't going nowhere. I want to give these guys a really good, solid chance to make the game that they envisioned. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, bro. Thank you, man. Always welcome. And we love hearing everybody's opinion because nobody's opinion is more important than anybody else's, you know?
Yeah, we appreciate you stopping by and providing your insights.
Next weekend I'll be here for the whole time, but the wife needs help with the kitties today. She's gonna murder me. This morning I was on the keyboard way too much for a Sunday morning, and she is not happy right now. So
Fair enough.
Oh, dude, just wait till the Gotchiverse comes out.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
I know. She's
Ain't seen nothing
playing
yet.
WoW Classic, so she's a bit like she's got some she's cut a bit, right? Like she knows about this world, but Sunday morning, like that's a new thing. So I'll see. y'all
Yeah,
later.
fair enough. Later, dude.
Later. You know what's interesting? We've talked, I mean, all of the focus has been on 2 or 3 of the, 6 proposals. So it'd be interesting to talk about some of the other ones. But really quickly before we get into that, there is a new SIGPROP proposal, and I think it's interesting. It's by, I think, nationalbank.eth. And the SIGPROP says, delay voting for SIGPROP Gotchiverse patch 0.1c boost until after the vote for realm parcels is voting rights. And it says, this proposal is to delay the vote for SIGPROP Gotchiverse patch 0.1c boost until after the vote for AGIP 17, adding voting power to realm parcels. Why? Some individuals invested heavily in realms and are now left with little voting power. Considering that the mentioned proposals have significant impact for realm owners and they are now left with less voting power, this seems unfair. What do you guys think? I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of goes in line with one of the other proposals with voting power as well. So it'd be like a double, like it's something to look at for sure.
Yeah, I'm checking now.
Land aren't really being represented. Like the people that own like mostly land and not enough gotchis or are staking enough or don't have like wearables, they really don't have a say in whether their parcels get boosted or not.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the block that they're using for this snapshot to determine voting power was from 2.5 days ago. So it's if they had done it from 2 weeks ago, then your voting power would have been pre-auction. But I think that is I think that's valid.
I agreed.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote on that now. Yeah. So then, how do we feel about the other SIGPROPs? Like I like the one where it was which one is it? AGIP 16 stake 100k ghosts to generate minigame rewards. I don't think anybody is against that. I haven't heard any opposition to that.
I said wait until I want it to be more of a DAO decision. I mean, I guess it is a DAO decision, but more like a task force to kind of organize that. But I mean, instead of waiting for the Frens, I see that side too. Reading back on it, I originally voted no, but looking back at it, the needing to stake the ghost to get the Frens to have the wearables to be able to give out to people. You need to do that sooner rather than later. Makes sense. I mean, we're kind of dealing with some of that in GMI with us staking for our little creators coalition.
See, I got to figure out how to do all just to vote on Aragon because I want to I'd be interested in throwing some of the excess ghosts I have into the treasury so we can a little part of a seed fund of some sort to get our treasury up so we get more friends.
Yeah, on the Aragon, you just go to the voting tab on the left. It's green and it says voting, and then up there.
Yeah, I just got to figure out how to even sign in.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think you just log in with your wallet, and you just go to that address.
As long as I have the, I guess the token in my wallet, right? I should be able to get it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the great things about Web3, right? You don't really need to create an account. You just plug your thing in. And
you're logging in your wallet.
I love it. Jones
Facebook,
Grizzy.
Fuck Google.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, Jones Grizzy, you've been up here for a little while. How's it going, man? If you're there, I don't know. I made him speaker a little while ago, but if you're there, you're welcome to chat. I know in no future you were talking about the 100k Frens proposal. That's probably one of the better ideas I've seen proposed for use of that DAO treasury. We've seen all kinds of things proposed in the last 6 or 7 months that I've been reading the DAO proposals, and we've had people say short the market with it. We've seen people say all kinds of crazy high risk stuff with it that I wouldn't be comfortable. I mean, you know, sure, if there's an upside or whatever, but there's always so much more risk with that stuff. And I just don't think that would be appropriate use of our money. But
Wait, so
this
you're
is
saying
actually a,
you're not comfortable like going all in on Shiba Inu?
well, maybe we can just
Crystal.
convert the 100K treasury to Mongoose coin and then just wait till the senator talks about it.
Oh, see,
And then you're set.
I'm gonna put it all into BitConnect. BitConnect.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel just generating friends with it is like it's perfect. You know, it's going to incentivize people to play these mini games. Like I cover these mini games. I find mini games that I think are fun, and I put up content. But like, I don't think people really want to play those mini games when the value proposition from like play to earn games is now there, right? It just we all know that feeling. Like you play a game and you earn some tokens, and then you try and play a game that you don't earn tokens, and it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same,
Yeah.
you know? But yeah, it'd be nice to have that little incentive where you're playing mini games and you're also getting to test these games and, you know, break some of these games so our devs can keep working on them. And then at the same time, you get this opportunity to earn friends, which I think is awesome. It's cool.
It adds another layer of play to earn this whole ecosystem, which I love. Because right now, all you kind of get is like from XP events, and there is no like actual like playing to earn in terms of like the current mini games. I mean, I guess like you could earn a little bit if you moved up on the like leaderboards for events, but like, that was just like a 3-day stint instead of like actually having something to do to constantly be to earn more tokens, which that would add another feature and on top of what we're already getting with the whole Gotchi person.
Yeah, I mean, imagine someone's like grinding these games, wins like a godlike ticket or something from playing the mini games, and then puts that in the raffle, and they end up winning an item. Like that's already happened
Right.
once before, so like that would be such an amazing story, and like that the word would get out, right? If something like that happened, like people would be
That's
talking
life
about
changing
it.
money right there. Like,
Yeah,
You know, I just
that'd be
noticed
crazy.
one of the other sig props that was thrown up. Can Pixelcraft mint land parcels directly to themselves without a DAO vote? It's not. It's close to reaching quorum. It's at 7.06 million out of the 9 million ghosts needed. But right now, the vote is for us to retain control, so that Pixelcraft would not be able to mint it to themselves. How do you guys feel about that? I'm gonna be honest. Like, I have a little bag of land in that area. I sold one parcel, but I have another parcel, so I kind of want them to keep control. But I'm being 100% biased because that one piece of land would lose, its value since supply is going to skyrocket. But how do
Which
you
one
guys
is
feel?
that?
Like basic District
Mint land
27.
directly to themselves.
Yeah, the District 27. So like I think there's like 60 something.
Yeah, no, but it kind of creates a landslide where they can just do whatever they want. They could just mint the whole grid to themselves. Not saying that they would do that, but it kind of creates a slippery slope that's not going through. But like providing them with that one square, I think is fine because it allows them to give them the ability to continue adding value to the whole Gotchiverse.
that actually might be a situation where we could ask. Like, I would like more information on that because they've talked about these crazy experiences that they want to roll out in Pixelcraft Square. If the value proposition of those experiences is so large and so incredible that like we'd be missing out by, hoarding the parcels or selling them off or whatever, then maybe that's something to really consider letting them have it. They just haven't made that clear again, right? So it's one of those situations where we might end up voting on it like the way we are now and then end up regretting it later when we don't get a bunch of things in the game.
Well, we're allocating 1,000 parcels. That one's going to go through two pick, but we're maintaining whether they get those 1,000 parcels. Was that other vote? So they're still going to have that, and if they want more land to do more experiences and stuff, I mean, they already have the which they've kind of already minted for themselves, which hasn't really been talked about, but I guess gloss over that.
But if they need more land to do more stuff, they can always just put in a DAO vote, and we'll vote on whether to give them that land instead of them just being like, oh, I'm going to take this section and make this and this and this, and now there's like everyone else, which could be good maybe because it's deflationary, but like that just becomes a slippery slope. Just in case, I'm not saying that craft is bad. In case there's like a bad actor that within the Pixelcraft community that decides that they want to mint half the land from themselves, and now they're the majority person, and they leave Pixelcraft and have all the land. I don't know. Just you got to think about the worst scenario and the bad actors when just considering that.
Maybe there's a world where, maybe there's a world where we can get a formal agreement from the team. I don't think we need this, but if this makes people feel better, like if they do get that 1,000 parcels, that they do not vote in the district DAO, or they have limited vote in the district DAO, and that maybe they have an agreement that they're not going to sell off the parcels. I don't think they would. I really don't. But if maybe that makes people feel better, that might be a good idea.
Well, it's already overwhelmingly 95.35% that we're going to give them those 1,000 parcels anyway. So
I don't think so. I'm looking.
It's hit quorum at 123%.
But wait, which one are we talking about? You're talking about. Oh wait, no. Okay, I was looking at a different proposal. Sorry, there's another proposal talking about whether we should retain control of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that we're maintaining control, but we've already decided to give them Pixelcraft Square.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I'd be fine with that. We control it. They can do what they want with it because we feel that they're going to add value to it. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by control? You mean by, I maybe might have missed that proposal then. What do you mean by control, as in like voting power, and they get the parcels?
As in the sense that it says, can Pixelcraft mint land parcels directly to themselves without a DAO vote? So that them being able to mint land whenever they want, without them consulting them.
Oh, yeah, I see. I think there should be a lot of consensus around stuff like that, but because I mean, they can also make their case. Like, I have to look at that proposal. They'll have to make their case like with any of the large decisions, I feel, to make sure that they're justified. I feel like it's just kind of vague to say, like, we'll mint whatever we want. I mean, I'll pull this up here.
I mean, I don't think that one's like an official thing. I think someone just put that up, but I think it is something that discussed.
Okay, I just got the main ones that were mentioned in the Medium article.
Yeah, it was posted this posted. How can I see?
So I guess the next thing, one of these proposals, because I feel like we're moving through them. This is good. The alchemical channeling kinship boost. It seems like it's overwhelming, 96.94%. Yeah, this one's already passed. It might not even be worth talking about because it seems like everybody's down with implementing this patch.
I mean, it'll give a lot of chances for people who don't have a parcel, don't have any land, and they can channel, and maybe they'll be able to flip their way up. I feel like it helps the economy. It helps the little guy. I'm not too worried about channeling. They can like boost it or whatever if they want, because I own a bunch of land, so like I already have like a pretty good source of Alchemica. But like I could see the channeling is going to be really important for those smaller players for sure. And like for me as well, like when I first start out, right? Like I guess everyone's going to have to do this in the beginning till they get their harvesters all set up. But yeah, I definitely voted yes for that, as other people did.
The other way around, I know there's like, I guess maybe two ways of channeling. I know Cody Dan said that you'd be able to go to your altar and channel from there, and then also channeling with your guild. I know within your guild you're able to channel, I think they said six hours. Again, like things may change, but and I think as it currently stands, you're able to channel every 6 hours. So if you were doing that and you only get per day, then and if it was one kinship per, and then you did say 4 channelings in a day, then you'd be losing 2 a day. So I like it being that it's a more of a multiplier as you move up. So you're continually like it's kind of like, well, why would something positive within the realm in terms of channeling be like hurting your Gotchi when like in the sense of like losing kinship, when you should be like that should be like increasing it or like at least keeping it neutral so that you can keep accumulating kinship over time, which is just kind of the whole point of like interacting with your Gotchi in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something to definitely keep in mind when you are looking to buy, like, let's say your first Aavegtochi. The kinship score is going to be important for that reason, because now they've said that whatever level your score is at, I think there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's 5 different levels your kinship's at, or 6 different levels, but each one of those levels is going to come with its own multiplier. So if you have a really low kinship Aavegtochi or really scorned Aavegtochi, be sure that you're also taking that into account with your buying decisions as well, if you're just starting out in the game, because there are some cheaper Aavegtochis on the market.
Yeah, I
they might have a
Gotchi. I'm 2 pets away from getting back to 50.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And I mean, you probably, I mean, for you though, like you probably saw there's some sort of a price discrepancy or the value there for doing that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because like,
But like for me, when I was,
increase.
yeah, exactly. But like for
Plus, his
me,
name
when
was
I
OG
first started,
Gotchi
I
and
actually made,
so that was another factor.
yeah, there you go. That's another factor. For me, when I first started, I actually made that mistake. I bought myself an Aavegtochi that had like 30 kinship or something, and it was frowning. I couldn't figure out why it was frowning, but eventually I did, right? It crossed the 50 mark, and I'm like, all right, that's what they're supposed to look like. So like I obviously maybe overpaid a little bit for mine, but I could see a lot of new people doing that. So just take that into account that if the Aavegotchi's on the floor and has a kinship below 50, that might make a little bit more sense of why it's down there, even if it has a little bit of a better BRS. And what you're giving up there is you might give up some of that multiplier that you would get from channeling now, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I listed my only double myth eye H2 Gotchi. I sold it in a over-the-counter deal with a friend, and it's like I'm so conflicted because I pet it so much. But it's like I've been talking to people who've tried to negotiate about the price of the Gotchis, and I didn't I'm not pricing them outrageously, but it's like part of the value of this Gotchi is it's high kinship, high XP. Like that, the BRS might not be great, but the kinship and XP. It's going to take you months to get it to where it is now. Like, so there is a value proposition there.
That's a little proof of work there too, because we've had to put in the work to actually pet your Gotchi and go to the events and put in the time to like make Gotchi the way it is in terms of kinship and XP. And that I'm realizing this is kind of like a kind of proof of work is integrated into this ecosystem that can't be overlooked.
Yeah, that kinship score is going to be a future credit score because it shows how reliable you are. Although
maybe Aave will use that as their borrower reliability or something.
That would be dope, where they're like, you get a better rate or like a better return on your investment or you can take out a little more leverage, even though I would never use that, but that would be amazing.
I think I've only missed 2 pets in this entire time. I vividly remember I fell asleep and I was supposed to pet my Gotchi and I woke up in the morning and was like, oh god damn it. But only twice have I ever missed a pet. So for the people that are continuously petting, that's going to be a huge value add. And the people that are just person whoever has Terrence McKinnon, please, if you're in here, put him in an automatic petting service with Ceza. Goddamn, I hate to see that. That's so annoying. Well, how are you going to spend 141 ETH can not pet it.
So, like,
Okay,
so neglect it, like.
I actually I have this theory, all right, that it's gonna be the year 2025, and you're gonna have these like really high-end Aavegtochi collectors, big bags, they have lots of money, and they're gonna hire some analysts to look at the on-chain activity of Aavegotchis, and they'll be able to tell if yours was algorithmically petted or hand petted, and they're gonna maybe ascribe some value to that. So I'm
All
gonna keep
hand
hand
pets
petting.
here, baby.
I'm gonna be hand petting my Aavegotchi because I think one day that's gonna be recognized because everything's on chain. So analysts can look at that and say, well, this pet's been timed every 12 hours on point for the last 3 months or 3 years or whatever. So we know this guy's been locked up in some algorithm getting petted, but we got this hand pet one that was like
Like the difference
proof of work,
between
as you say.
like free range chicken and and like a beef chicken.
Yeah, you don't understand.
Yeah,
I'm so close to 500. I have one Gotchi that's at 496, and he should be at like 540. But it's been a slippery slope of like forgetting to pet my Gotchi for like yesterday. The time to pet the Gotchi was I think at like 8 a.m. I had just reset it because I missed the pet, and now I'm back to like I have to wait till 1 a.m. to pet it because I couldn't get a freaking internet connection at the bar.
I'm
It's
at
also-
like 4 a.m. pets right now.
Yeah, I mean, I should be doing it. I don't want to do a petting service though. I do like the idea. I like that it's consistent and it is a part of the game, but it does take away some of the fun, and then it kind of makes the kinship leaderboard a little stagnant because when H3 comes out, I can tell you everybody's strategy is going to be buy portals, open them like the second you can, and then immediately run over to like an auto petting. So you have like, because if you don't, you're not going to have a great chance. Assuming that the auto petter doesn't have any issues, because there are people who create smart contracts for auto petting that have had weird things happen, like the pet didn't go through because, like, say Matic was off and the transaction was stalled or something. Stuff happens, but it's an interesting change.
Wait, Matic was off?
Yeah, like say you submit transactions and they fail. Like if you had a pet bot and
So you
at
meant
the
the
time,
chain was off.
no.
It's like,
I mean, no. That's a bigger issue.
I didn't know
but-
we were on Solana here.
Yeah, think of it like your pet, like you go in, you're doing pets, and you have it set for before Matic or Polygon changed their rules that minimum GUI was 30. Prior to that, you can get a pet in with only one GUI. So if you didn't notice that change, you could have went weeks without your pets going through because you didn't have, your gas was way too low.
I think there's just something just like actually being active and like to your Gotchi, because they made these for like the first like kind of NFTs that you can actually interact with that like over time like accumulates in value because of like actually interacting with your NFT, and it makes the whole game like more fun. And if you're just like, oh, I'm buying this and putting it in a vault somewhere to be auto petted, and then I'm just gonna wait until like I take that out and like accumulate, harvest the value from my Gotchi. Like why are you in a play to earn game? I mean, I guess like you're speculating and you're trying to make money, but like if you're not having fun around like along the way, like what, I don't know. For me, like I don't see the point in that. I mean, I guess like making the money, but like I don't know. I enjoy playing the game too much, and I guess I just have that too much. But do you see the investor value as well? On analytics will also assign that lesser value to that. It's just yet to be seen because we're at the forefront of what is even possible.
Yeah, it is interesting because I will say, like, I have sold a couple of Gotchis, and the ones that I've sold that I personally have pet has like it does affect me. Like I feel like I betrayed them somewhat. Where like even the Gotchi that I was gonna murder, when I bought it, I was like, I have no connection, and then I pet it like 2 or 3 times. I was like, damn it, I have a connection now, and it makes it much harder to do anything. I feel like wearables I could sell. There's no soul to a wearable, tickets and even plots of land maybe, but the Gotchis is different because it's like, no, me and you, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. to pet you. This means something. It's more than just like money. It's like you'll talk to me one day and tell me, especially once we're in the realm, this is gonna all like become more solidified. Like when we did the Worldwide Webb3 thing this Saturday, it was fun, like to be able to move around as my Aavegtochi and be seen by everybody else in the metaverse. It was cool.
All this talk has made me think about maybe creating a wedding like church chapel on one of my parcels so that, you know, people who really love their gotchis can get married.
Oh, that would be cool. And then it's like adapt that like drafts up relationship marriage contracts, smart contracts with prenups and all that.
Yeah, your marriage would be completely on chain. But what happens if you try to divorce?
Well, you
Wait,
have
you
to
talking about, like,
hire a
marrying
gotchi
people
lawyer
with
at that
gotchis?
point.
Or like other people marrying each other?
I mean, you could do both. There's no reason. Like,
Yeah,
imagine
I
a
mean,
service where you
yeah.
set up a parcel where two
It's a
people.
little weird.
It is weird, but I'm
I'm
sure
not
people
gonna
will pay
judge,
for it.
but you know.
Like if you have a family affair, say, and I mean, if you're in a family, you're probably married already. But like, say me and my girlfriend are both. I don't have a girlfriend, but if I did, we were both really into Aavegtochi, and we had Aavegtochis, and we want instead of we decide to have a marriage ceremony in a Gotchi, like a what's it called, like a church. And then now our wedding certificate, which is a real wedding certificate, can exist as an NFT on the blockchain. That would be pretty cool. But you're
that
also
will
going
never always be there for the test of time. Yeah.
yeah. It's like I told my brother to do that.
Kind of
like,
romantic in a way. I see it.
yeah, but it's like it's a very niche like nerd market. That
Oh
wants
yeah,
this.
for sure.
Yeah.
There'll be like a gemstone. There'll be like a gemstone ring that's given
There's
out,
gonna be people
but
that get married
I don't
in
know.
the-
That's an
oh, yeah.
uncommon item though. That might be a little offensive. I don't know. Maybe it has to be like a legendary item or something.
Well, it's the only ring, and I think there's going to be more than 1,000. Well, probably not more than 1,000 people that get married inside the Gotchiverse. But if everyone has those rings, like, I mean, later on they are going to be probably pretty expensive. But it's still a common item. You're right. Maybe they can get one ring made by like the devs or something.
It'd be pretty crazy with the kind of revenue share like type of smart contracts that the devs have probably cooked up. You can probably repurpose those for Gotchi child support after the divorce too, to make it so that way every a percentage of everything your Gotchis earn from that point on you have to pay to either spousal support or child support.
They get like 5% of all your kek for life.
Now you have to worry about Gotchi gold diggers. Like this is oh no. Did you love me for the Alchemica or for me?
And all your assets become non-transferable. So you have.
Oh man!
What are we doing? No, no.
We're fucking ourselves over here, guys.
I wonder if someone's gonna make a church eventually, like a church, like where there is like a congregation of Gotchis that come in every week, and whatever the religion, I guess, of Gotchi is preached, and there's tithes that are paid to the church, which the church is in and of itself a DAO. That would be kind of interesting. It's like all this, like all these possibilities.
Well, it's kind of crazy though, because like if you've been in other games, like like when I played RuneScape, there was like clans, but like the clans in real life were like actual like cults too. Like it's like who knows what other groups of people are going to come in there and start their own like little following. Whether that's good or not, that'll pan out over time, but it'll be interesting to see what other groups like that come in and like, for example, like you say, a church or, maybe something where like preaching the gospel.
See, that just gave me an idea, like for a tax dodge almost, like start a Aavegtochi religion in the metaverse, and then you can use it, not pay taxes on that money because it's a religion, at least in the US, right? You just have to really believe it, create
it's
some
a virtual church.
Yeah.
The whole Gotchiverse is a religion.
Isn't there like a reduction?
Dang.
We could do like a Rastafari kind of Gotchi like combination religion, where we like make marijuana a central focus point of kind of like our beliefs within the realm. So,
well, I know you can get.
I
know you can get drugs and Worldwide Webb3. Like that was surprising to me. Like you can pick up I don't know. Future, you're around picking up some stuff, but like
I picked up Xanax. I picked up Adderall.
The dystopian metaverse, as they put it.
Well, I'll say all of those drugs I picked up happened before we started playing the game. I just took them during the game. I didn't actually find any.
Speaking of the Worldwide Web game, and I didn't have a lot of time Saturday to kind of watch that. I'm sure it was a lot of fun, but can some of you speak to like your experience of how that went, and then furthermore, do you see us doing that, in the Gotchiverse when our game launches to, like kind of these like inviting other P2E games like and doing some sort of like cool little fun events such as that?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to it. I think it went well. It started crashing a little bit in the beginning, but I mean, seeing our Gotchis in a metaverse for the first time was really fun. I'm also going to be streaming tomorrow at 11 p.m. To have us all go in Worldwide Web3 again and kind of do some more like parading around and talking to each other and seeing our Gotchis in the metaverse. I think they did a good job of rendering it. The game itself so far is still like in pre-alpha. There's still some like bugs and some collision error like issues. So like there's like some like secret places that you can get to or whatever. I mean, it's cool to walk around and shitpost in. They have a couple quests.
Oops, my bad. I muted everybody because I was trying to give somebody permission to talk.
All good. I would say that, I mean, it's not a play to earn. It's not like a metaverse that I really foresee like me playing long term, but it was fun to see my Gotchis in there. And in terms of like bringing other stuff into the Gotchiverse, I think like there are some opportunities to do that. I know I've proposed maybe a option to maybe like reskin your Gotchi as another NFT that you have, or like, or like maybe you can reskin your liquidator as something else. I don't know. But I think Jesse was, and Cody, we were talking about those like luchadorians and then maybe like setting up a ring and on like a parcel for them or something like that. Like we are talking about like integrations, and we're talking like looking at like partners and stuff. And it's like who actually has a coin and like other projects that they can like bring into this that can have experiences within our metaverse. That's like bringing in other cultures into this. So I think we are trying to be interoperable, and I think that's the smarter move for the Gotchiverse, instead of it just being for Gotchis.
Very quickly before I forget, let's because you mentioned the live stream. I'll be streaming tomorrow morning, ideally for this YGG. I think it was YGG. YGGC Fireside Chat. So the team's going to be doing an AMA in the amphitheater, both text and voice. So
a fun emoji.
yeah. So if you're a content creator, like one of the ambassadors, if you could stream, go for it. But if not, just so everybody knows, they'll be doing this AMA tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I definitely want to learn more about them because they have their own token, I heard, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I will. Hopefully, I can stream that content as well. I might have some meetings tomorrow, but I might be able to push those.
It'd be interesting, like you said, like they have their own token, and like YGG is such a well-established guild with other games. I think they have a pretty extensive like Axie scholarship program, but I find a lot of these guilds that are getting involved, they're really seeing the value of Aavegtochi right away because they've kind of gone through the struggles of running a scholarship program with no on-chain metrics, and not being able to like rent anything out on-chain can be pretty difficult. And from like talking to the Meta Guild guys, it kind of comes with its own with its own challenges, running everything kind of on your own, because essentially these scholarship programs are built by the guilds themselves, and it's up to them to manage it, which creates some very frustrating issues sometimes, especially with like accountability and whatnot. But I'd actually love to get the YGG guys here on our Gotchi Space as well, and maybe we can ask them some questions and kind of hear about what they have to say about the Gotchiverse. I think that would be really interesting.
Real quickly, we should consider getting Blackpool on. I know the Gotchi Cast brothers, the Gotchi Bros, they interviewed someone. I haven't listened to the episode, but I just want to really quickly say shout out to like Aperone and Mycalian. I was mentioned in one of their shows recently because I outbid them on a parcel in D27, and I just want to apologize for that. I know you wanted that parcel. I didn't realize I stole it out from under you. But it's going to be safe with me for now, so you can always come by and visit.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I think there's plenty of guilds out there that like I'm still trying to figure out what they want to do. I know Blackpool released like some of their details on some of their acquisitions and got like a general idea of what they want to do in the Gotchiverse. But going back to what you were saying, Master Yang, with the interoperability of games, I actually think maybe that's the idea behind these partner parcels. And the way that they're giving them out is kind of like to not only incentivize uh, players within the game, but also to attract outside players that are involved in other maybe play to earn games and see if they can bring some of their experiences over and have this sort of uh, mingling in between us and other projects as well. I could see other tokens being given out in the Gotchiverse as well eventually.
Yeah, I really like that, and I hope we continue to do more of that, obviously in a very methodical way, not just, blindly, but I really love, you know, uh, having other communities become part of the Aavegtochi community, and I think some of these integrations or these cool collaborations um, are very conducive of, getting and garnering interest in what can sometimes feel like it's a very overwhelming game, you know, to somebody who's new at first. Some people take to it differently than others, depending on how autistic you are, I would say. Um, but, for some of my friends who I've told to, about Aavegtochi, there's some that are just like, oh, wow, get it immediately. And then, like, you just don't hear from them from a week. And like, they come up for it and they're like, oh, my God, this game's amazing. And then there's others that are just like, how do I buy Gotchi? Which one should I buy? Like they're a little bit more, I guess, not they don't. It's not. It doesn't come as natural to them. So if you can speak their language, and I think that's why language is so important. If you can say, look, maybe you don't understand Aavegtochi, but maybe you understand whatever, like Rare Pepes, or maybe you understand, another P2A game that you're playing, like, and then having the, some sort of hey, bring that player over into this for a cool hangout session we're all doing in the Gotchiverse. Like, I think that is like just like gateway drug on steroids for more people coming into the Gotchiverse. I love seeing that, and I hope to see that trend continue.
See, that's interesting that you mentioned that because like that's what we were talking about with MetaGuild too, and we were kind of thinking like we are asking them like where do you currently see a lot of players coming to for Aavegtochi? And they basically said, well, Aavegtochi has so many different layers of complexity and different kind of just intricacies that you have to take time deep diving into, either watching YouTube videos, either watching some of our content or what may have you, the blogs, reading the blogs. Um, that once you get down to the bottom of it, you're like, okay, I understand this thing, and then you jump in. But for a lot of people that are already playing play to earn games, it's not that far of a leap for them. So we're going to see a lot of traffic coming from there currently as the way the game is right now, where we have a lot of people interested in simpler, easier to play, play to earn games. And then they're finding out about Aavegtochi and they're like, all right, I get play to earn. Okay, how is Aavegtochi different? And then they do their research and they're like, holy, this is incredible, right? It's exciting. And then they take the dive, they jump in. But then I could also see the other side of it where once we have the Gotchi lending released and we have the liquidator gameplay released, now the barrier to entry is like so low and the initial investment of time and capital becomes so low that now we're going to start attracting those non-crypto natives. Then we'll start attracting those non play to earn people that have never played a crypto game, but maybe they own a little bit of Bitcoin, so they understand some cryptocurrency, or they maybe own a little bit of Ether or whatever, and they understand a little bit of that. And it's just a little bit of a leap for them, but they're able to make that leap at that point because they don't mind spending, a couple ghost or getting a free voucher and spending a couple hours to figure this out. So I think that's where it's going to shift. And I think once we see that, we're going to also see a new level, a new wave of capital coming in at that point. But yeah, I mean that's kind of where I see that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. I also like, does anybody have any suggestions? Like, let's say, a non P2E like expert, that is like, hey, I've been seeing you talk about Aavegtochi. I'd like to find out more. What would some of you say would be like some of the first, documentation or educational information or advice even, for somebody who's new, not a P2E gamer to begin with, and probably doesn't have the autistic ability to dive in on their own and just like, without any really assistance, like kind of just take it from there. What advice would you give he or she right from the get-go, and what educational material would you, give him or her at this point in time today?
Just my 2 cents really quickly. I like sending the Aavegtochi Wikipedia, or the Wikipedia that the community updates and edits, because every section you might have a question on is in there. And then the second thing I might tell them to do is to get a first-hand experience of Aavegtochi itself, is just check out the bazaar and just start just looking at different items or gotchis. But I know people might have a different suggestion, so I'm curious to see what they send to people.
I show my YouTube. I can't help it. I send people to the wiki, but I always say check out the YouTube, because then you could see, like, reading the wiki is good, but like, say you want to learn about the GBM, seeing the actual auction and happening kind of helps. If you are interested in the mini games, seeing a mini game video helps. Or like like any of the auctions, any of the even the rarity farming season ends. Like I feel like we get a lot more information by listening to the team talk. Although that information, as we stated before, it can be a little tricky. It's good to be able to see it in action. So like you get an idea. Like today, I felt really bad, man. I'm not gonna lie. I went back and listened to a lot of like recordings of stuff to see if I'm like gather information and see certain things. And every time I hear Jesse, I feel like I'm listening to somebody's grandfather, because he's like so sweet and like transparent. He's like, he has a lot of passion for this. Same thing with Coder Dan and anybody from the team. So it's like whenever I feel like I question their judgment, I feel bad, because I know these people from my interactions with them every week. So it's like it is good to be able to hear the team and hear their voice and like kind of humanize them, because they're not just avatars in our Discord or like the Giga Brains that put together these wonderful documents,
Yeah, I definitely sent a couple of newcomers, your YouTube channel and, or like your Spotify kind of podcast, No Futuristic. I think a lot of the content you've made, and that was actually some of my first foray into the space, was listening to, some of your podcasts. And I learned a lot from them early on. So I think they're definitely helpful. And, I think that Sir Stinkiest Linkiest, which is an awesome name, by the way.
Thanks, Broski.
I think that the Wikipedia is definitely cool, like for a quick, like, just, some people don't have an hour or two to listen to a No Futuristic podcast all the time. And, you don't want to lose them either, like by like, oh, hey, here you go, listen to these, 20 episodes that are 2 hours each. And then let me know what you think. So like having like just a quick kind of like gateway, like, hey, here's a little bit of a Wikipedia, take a look, let me know what you think. I think that's helpful.
Sounds like I need to make a simple infographic for.
I think that we need a little bit more, exactly. Like a little bit like where
You just give me a good idea.
Like Cliff Notes, like kind of like, look, this is what you need to know if you're
Here's the
thinking about even.
boilerplate.
Yes, exactly. And I don't feel like when I first came here, I don't feel like there was any of that for me, and maybe I wasn't looking in the right places, and I'm sure that there's more of that now since I've passed the point of
It could
newcomer.
still be better.
But I think that like I've had a couple people like, hey, like, dude, what's the alpha on Aavegtochi? Where do I start? And I'll be honest with you, like, it's just as overwhelming for me to try to tell them where to start as it is for them to try to figure out where to start on their own. So that's kind of why I bring the topic up, you guys. I don't mean to hijack this conversation this way, but I think it's a very important part of onboarding some of the, newcomers that are noobs and maybe don't have that, again, that autistic kind of just brain part of, that part of their brain where they're just like, oh, like this is like, let's go rip. Like Master Yin is very like that. You know, like for instance, like I would probably put myself more of like I think I have more of the other style of brain where I need to, I need a 2 hour no futuristic podcast, and I want time to think about things where, somebody like Yin will be like, he's played World of Warcraft a million times. He's ran in guilds before. I haven't. So, but that's kind of why I bring it up to begin with. So.
No, I agree 100%. Liz Lele, who came into Aavegtochi, like she got into it because of me. That was one of her first things she told me. She's like, you need to make videos that are like 2 minutes long so it's digestible information. And it's like, I remember when I made my beginner's guide at the very beginning of the ambassadors thing, and like to get through the full onboarding video, it was a 30-minute video. And now when I look back on it, I'm like, what I need to do is make 10 short 2-3 minute videos so it's easy to digest this information. It's just also like a lot of information, so it's hard. Like we should definitely, us as the ambassadors, as GMI, maybe we should sit down and talk about making a guided series of beginner intro videos or stuff for very specific aspects of the game. A small video about Kinship,
Yeah.
a video about XP, so that it's a little easier for
just like a 10-part series of like really short videos that honestly, even if we could get those videos to qualify for shorts, because a lot of people get a lot of views on YouTube shorts. So even if they're short enough, like a quick 60 seconds, and you're getting them in little bits, because I mean, people don't have as much bandwidth as they used to, right? Like, I mean, I like reading books. I like getting deep into shit, and like really, like Master Yang was saying, when I found out about Aavegtochi, it was like a 20-hour research project on what Aavegtochi is and what play to earn is, and then before I even spent anything, right? And then it's like my emotions started messing with me because I got the FOMO, right? So like I I really looked into this stuff, but like I understand, some people can't get beyond like the 270 characters on Twitter. So like for those people, um, that like digesting, and that's not a slight on those people at all. It's just some people like digesting smaller amounts of information, and if that's information's there, I think we'll be able to onboard people a lot better.
110%. Like, honestly, I've been in Bitcoin a long time, like 2012, 2013, which is relatively long, from what other people, I guess, have told me. To me, I guess, feels like yesterday. But, since NFTs, like, my attention span is that of like a cockroach almost at this point. Like, it's really bad. And my throughput is like sometimes on some days is so overwhelmed that literally, like, it can be a lot for me to be like, all right, shit, I gotta worry about Kinship, these 4 different alchemechas. I gotta, take care of the Gotchi. I gotta do this. I gotta go on the bazaar. We got the GVM option I gotta learn about, and I gotta bid to earn. And I've had people in my DMs like, hey, where do I begin? And it's like, all right, what would be that one thing? If I could just send this guy one thing, what would be the one thing?
I just thought of the one thing. Coder Dan and Jesse actually did a podcast with this guy Andrew Steinwald. He runs a podcast show called Zebra Red, and they did an episode. Yeah, it was like a really early episode, and they did an episode, and it just went into like the initial what is Aavegtochi, and I thought that was a really interesting episode, and it's about 1 hour long, but he really got into a lot of questions about Aavegtochi and clarified a lot of things.
If you could post that or send it to me later, Hefe, I really appreciate that. But yeah, that's
try to find it and link it.
Nice. Yeah, I could.
I think that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I could definitely do that. Like I just want to get all the resources out to make sure that we're not missing those people, right? Because those are also the people that talk the most about something that they love. And like if we can spread through the word of mouth, like that is the quickest way to spread, right? So
yeah, just having that 1 or 2 things where it's like, okay, this is gonna be the best chance for me to. If this guy's seriously interested and he's asking me like, hey, where do I begin? What is that 1 or 2 things I can send him that's going to really give him that quick, like 50,000 foot view and hopefully capture his interest? Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been there where it's like somebody told me about a project and I looked at it, I guess I just didn't get it the first glance at it, and I didn't look deep enough, passed on, and then boom, 3 months later, shit blows up. I'm like, oh my God, so stupid. I should have, looked into that further. So, the more that we can hook them and give them that like nice 50,000 foot view, it's in taking like hey, this is a normie approach to it. Like, hey, let's consider them a normie for just a second, not like pro P2E gamer. That would be helpful, guys. And if there's anything anybody here, listening to this can generate or add, please send it to me. DM it to me or drop it in here or send it to No Futuristic or Hefe. I think that the more we can put together, like maybe even a website where it's like getongotchi.com or something like that, where it's like, hey, this is like a great portal we can make to like just for those newcomers where it's just like, boom, send them this link and it'll give them some great resources to just get started, to get in to where they feel like, oh, I don't have to spend $1,400 or whatever it may be just to learn how to play this game or figure this out. I guess that's what I mean, reducing that initial entry barrier. I know it's going to improve over time. I'm just talking about just today, period, because other things are going to fill in the gaps, like guilds are going to fill in the gaps and do some of this educational onboarding. There's going to be a bunch of other people to kind of help out and build tools. Like, there's a bunch of apps I've seen that are coming out that have come out that have been super awesome, like ghst.gg or whatever, things like that. All that makes things easier, but still just that like, hey, man, I've been seeing you talk about or tweet about Aavegtochi. Where do you suggest I begin? What should I do? How should I pick my first Gotchi? And then boom, send them that. And it's like, if you have any questions, let me know. Follow. I'll be happy to answer them,
So what I'm most excited about is like exactly what you're talking about is like what's going to capture people's interest in my opinion. Because I don't know, like my interests are very different than some of my other friends, and trying to get them in a game sometimes takes a little bit. But what's really going to make the difference is what Hefe was saying, the on-chain lending and renting. Just simply like giving one of my friends like a Gotchi and say, hey, play with it. Come back to me if you have any more questions, et cetera, et cetera. Once someone gains interest into something, that's when they go full-blown research. Like sometimes you can't give motivation to people, but I like what you're saying with maybe we can make like pictographs or more infographics for the community that are maybe visually pleasing and very easy to see and understand. Because sometimes I feel like in Aavegtochi, I don't think we have anything like pictures or something very simple to grasp.
Yeah, like digestible and consumable, but you're right, like especially about the renting lending, that without a doubt will help a ton. I just want, I'm thinking like from the mainstream consumable, like easy digestible content onboarding. Like I'd love to see even more. If anybody has something I haven't seen yet, please send it to me.
See, I think a lot of this will be much easier once the game launches. Because right now we have to explain the mechanics of the ecosystem, the tokenomics.
And they might change.
Yeah, once the game, no, not even necessarily that it might change, but once we have the game.
I'm going back to like the patches that are going on. You might something is some way, and then it might change until we get the white paper, until we get the game. It's still a little bit vague to make real like hard content around. And say like this is definite. Well, like you should buy a boot. Like if I were to make like an infographic saying that like, oh, you should have bought a boosted parcel because based off of like, oh, it's only going to be a replenish one time, and then that changes, then that infographic is obsolete. So until we get the hard information of the white paper, it's a little difficult when everything's still like speculation right now.
Yeah, and playing the game, like if I show you a video of me playing the game for 1 minute. Most new people will get, like, I can vaguely explain kind of what's happening in terms of the deep tokenomics, like the idea that this is a crypto bank and that there's Kinship and XP, but watching me actually play the game and collect the Alchemica is going to be all that we need to be able to show somebody and be like, hey, there's a lot of information you have to digest, but if you get through it and you get to this point where you're playing the game, there's so much value for you. It's just being able to show them that without, listening to 20 hours of deep dives into like everything would be a lot easier, and we're gonna get there. And like even I'll talk to the team. Maybe we'll ask them in the next hangout or the next time we have a chance what their view is on testnet, like publishing material on the testnet testing. So if we have access to testnet and we could play the game and it's a smooth, like non-buggy ride, is it okay that we make content based off of that? Because pre-launch, that will be huge. Like that would be so beneficial, assuming that, it's not like, we're not giving away too much, compared to what the team's plan is on how they want to release that information to the public. Because we're still in pre-sale, technically. Like, we haven't had a public sale yet, even though they all have been public. It'll just be a different vibe, a different thing.
I agree 100%. I think that, it's just early, guys. I guess it's the want of, wanting more, but I think you're right. The game's not playable yet. So it's hard to do a lot of that when things are up in the air, still early. Can't even play the game yet. So there are certain challenges, and 100% they certainly will improve. That's kind of why I was like, maybe at this point in time, what's the best thing to go about at this stage of the game? And I'm already having people in my DMs sending me stuff already. So guys, I really appreciate it. I'm going to take a look at some of these things and get back to you. And, let's all collab to see if we can we could get some of this content out there, or at least, maybe put it somewhere hosted one particular, central spot to where it's easy to send it with one link or whatever it may be. But I think it's going to improve over time regardless, guys. So it might be a problem that solves itself ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, I love the conversation around that, because that's when we really start to see, that's when we'll see our efforts get rewarded as people who are trying to spread the Gotchi gospel of the game. When people actually start just giving it a try, like Linkiest was saying, once we're able to lend them out to our friends and stuff. Like, I have at least 4 or 5 friends that if I lend them out to Gotchi, I know they'll be hooked. But it's about getting them there, right? So I think we can do it, and I think we know exactly what we need to do. Like, you made some good points today about maybe creating some more digestible chunks of information so it can be dispersed a lot easier. So definitely going to take those things into account. And myself, No Future, and the Gotchi brothers, and a few other content creators, Golden Road, we've all got together and created GMI, which is Gotchi Media Interactive, and it's going to be a group that it's just a group that allows us to have a conversation around this stuff and figure out how can we put our resources together as creators and get more people engaged. So that's definitely like a big point to make, and we'll definitely be talking about this going forward. So thanks for bringing that up. And on that note, though,
a lot of things to think about. So we'll definitely bring that back to BMI and bring back to the creators. Maybe Thrax can make some good stuff, and maybe we can all put our heads together and make a good little TV show that is an easy step-by-step guide to Aavegtochi. And and if you have any other suggestions, feel free to reach out, and we'll try our best to implement them.
Yeah, I'd love that. But on that note, we're coming up, I think we're just over at 2 hours now. So I think it's a good time to wrap up. But before we do that, is there anything you guys want to add, or is there something that you need to announce for the week coming up? Is there anything that you can think of?
Just remember tomorrow, the YGGC Fireside Chat. It's at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. UTC. So it's going to be happening in the Aavegtochi Discord and in the amphitheater. There's a special channel for it, I believe. Yeah, YGGC Fireside Chat. So tune in. I'm probably going to live stream it so that we have a record of it. But yeah, it should be good.
And then
go ahead.
For me, real quick, just a reminder, tomorrow at 11 p.m. Eastern, I'll be streaming with Taproot. We'll be entering Worldwide Webb3 and having a little party in there. So come out if you're available. My Twitch is twitch.tv/goldenred, and we'll have a blast in the Worldwide Web3, seeing our Gotchis in the metaverse for the first time. If you miss Saturday, that would be a good opportunity. Otherwise, come out and show your support.
Yeah, that'll be dope. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, just my quick question before we end this for the Gotchi gang. Do you guys think we'll see a Gotchiverse white paper before Christmas, you think? Because I feel like they've been working on it for a little bit, and I feel like we're getting to the fine details at this point with some of the DAO votes.
To be honest, I'm not sure because Christmas is less than 2 weeks away. So I don't know, like, the team, if they're traveling. I'm sure they put a ton of work into it, but there's also now some slight changes happening based on these patches and the votes that occur. Especially if we delay that, like, the SIG prop that's up to delay the vote on Boost until we settle whether realm parcels, what voting power they have. So if that delay happens, that could push back the timetable a bit more. So I'm not sure. It's going to be kind of close though.
Yeah, I'm kind of banking on like I love that. I'd love that. But I'm banking on January first week, maybe early January. Hopefully, we see the white paper, and then sometime in January we get our initial access. So if that happens, I'll still be really happy with it. But of course, like you said, before Christmas, I'd love that if they get that out. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, either way, I'm so confident in this team and project, I can't even put it into words.
Yeah, I believe we're all on the right path. So with that being said, I'm going to make sure that this is put up on my YouTube channel. You can find the link in my bio on Twitter. If you want to have another listen, I'll make sure it's up. And we host this every Sunday. For those of you who don't know, Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And thank you all for coming out. And I love hanging out with you guys. It's awesome. I love how we can put aside our differences no matter what we voted on and still have a great time just hanging out in space.
Thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, thanks for hosting this, Hefe. Always a good time.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, guys.
No problem. Thank you all for showing up. And again, I agree with everything you just said, Hefe, on, everybody getting along and, there's going to be some debate and so forth. But, this is, for me, I don't know. It's kind of fun. I don't take these things too personally. I know there's some people, like, maybe who probably play, like, Call of Duty or something that's, where they're like, it's like, go fuck your mom or something. And then they just, like, freak out and then they track you down or something, But, for this DAO stuff, I think it's, I don't know. I think it's really fun. I don't really care what happens either way on the vote. I just think it's fun to participate, and I think it's even fun to troll a little bit. I know some people are trolling a little bit. It's just kind of how it is sometimes on both sides. So, it's exciting. It's entertaining for me. Having a great time. My little shill. We're still getting things together with 8-Bit Gamers Guild. Appreciate some of you who showed up to the Gamers Guild Discord, and we did like our first YouTube video last week on how to pick a Gotchi. Master Yin actually leaked some pretty good alpha on some of the ways he looks at Gotchis and opens portals. It was pretty cool. We just put it up on YouTube.
That was fun.
Check it out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I learned a lot actually, believe it or not. He's picked.
So did I.
He's picked over like 150 Gotchis almost. So. He's definitely got some experience there. But I recommend you guys check out the video. I posted it on YouTube, and we're going to be we set up some more things over the weekend in terms of getting the treasury set up and stuff like that, and hopefully we can get some things off the ground and trying to get ready for the launch of the Gotchiverse and so forth. So if any of you guys want to work with us on anything, I'd love to hear from you, and I definitely want to do things with the guild, like produce more content, educational content, get more devs interested in building the apps and things in the Gotchiverse. Like that to me is one of the most important things. And then also, create an environment for people to rent Gotchis and get into the game without spending too much money up front. So that's pretty much it for me, you guys. I, again, appreciate these weekly chats, everything you guys do. And it's awesome making a lot of new friends. And, thank you for all those of you who are sending me a bunch of DMs with educational stuff. This I'm going to go through it later after I take care of some nightly chores and take a look at some of this stuff. So yeah, have a great
perfect
Sunday night.
And exactly. And once you guys have that guild, like once it's all good, like rolling, I'd love to even talk about it in the space with you guys and get the word out and let people know how they can join and how they can get involved.
Appreciate it, Hefe.
And if
But
you
yeah,
have any good games that you guys need some like testing, I could always, or like some promoting, I could always stream it on my Twitch and try to play it and see if I can break it and just give feedback and all that. So just let me know.
perfect.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that, Golden Road. I really do.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, fellas. Well, I hope everyone in here, fellas and ladies, I hope everyone in here had a good night. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your night. And we'll see you here next week.
We're gonna make it.
We're all going to make it.
Wag me, baby.
Wag me.
Dr. Wag me, baby. I'll be on to the top.
Dr. Wagme is crazy. Did you
Oh my
see?
God.
Did you guys see his spreadsheet,
Oh yeah.
dude?
It's nuts.
How many gotchas does he have? Because I'm thinking if he made those calculations, imagine what Yannick's spreadsheet might look like. If
Oh
he were to
God.
rent him out. Because Dr. Wagme,
Yeah, it's crazy.
he can make almost like $500,000 renting him out, and I forgot how many gotchis, but definitely not as many as Yannick.
I wish I had a mind blown emoji. That's how I'm feeling.
It's insane to me because this truly is the future. Like the people who are getting in early to play to earn, et cetera, are the people who get to retire and sit on their ass just by renting out little NFT avatars.
Yeah, 100%. But with that being said, I mean that's a great note to end off on. So I'm gonna end the space. But come by next weekend, next Sunday night. I'd love to have y'all.
Oh, of course. I love seeing you guys.
Peace, guys. Have a good night.
Peace.
All right, peace out.
Or day. Whatever time it is for you. Peace.